today our topic is surface area and volume of cylinders. So our essential question is, how can I calculate the surface area and volume of a cylinder? First off, we have some key terms. First off, cylinder is a 3D figure with two circular bases. So if you look at the image to your right, we have circle on the top, circle on the bottom. That is a cylinder. The radius is still the distance from the center to a point on the circle, so half the diameter. The height, now this is really important, it's the distance between the two circular bases. So it's how far the two circular bases are away from each other. Surface area is the total area of the surface of a 3D object. So if you wanted to cover it with wrapping paper, that would be your surface area. How much space do you need to cover? And then volume is the amount of three-dimensional space something takes up. So it would be, if I wanted to fill that cylinder with water, how much water it would contain. So surface area is the outer, if you wanted to wrap it in wrapping paper, and volume is the amount you'd need to know if you wanted to fill it with water. So we have two formulas. We have our formula for volume, which last year you should have learned this basic formula, which is area of the base times the height. Well, since the base is a circle, the area of the base would be the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. So we're going to take pi, times it by our radius squared, times it by our height. Surface area, and this is kind of fun to say, is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Kind of got a little rhythm to it. 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So you're going to use that formula for surface area. So let's just dive right in. Examples. Identify the radius and height of each cylinder. Calculate the surface area and volume of each cylinder. So the radius, right here we're given our diameter. So the radius is going to be half that amount, which is going to be 9 kilometers. And then the height then is also 9 kilometers, because that's the distance between the two circles. So the distance between the two circles is 9 kilometers. So now we want to calculate the surface area and the volume. So let's start off with the surface area. Remember, surface area formula is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So all we want to do is plug in the correct numbers. So 2 pi, well, pi is 3.14. Well, our approximation, that's what we're going to use. R, well, that's our radius, so 9. So we'd put 9 there and square it. Plus 2 pi is 3.14. Radius is 9 again, and the height is also 9. So now here comes time for our handy calculator to come into play. So we have our calculator. Oh, excuse me. And we're going to type in this whole piece that I wrote in red. So we have 2. Parentheses are above the 8 and 9. Otherwise, we can also use the time symbol, but I like using the parentheses for consistency. So close the parenthesis, another parenthesis, and we have 9, and then we're going to square that, and then plus 2 times 3.14, close the parenthesis, open another parenthesis, we have 9, close the parenthesis, another parenthesis, 9. So when you have that all typed out, it should look exactly like how you wrote it. And then we're going to press enter, and that will give us the surface area of our cylinder. So we have 1017.36, and that's going to be kilometers squared. Surface area squared, because we multiplied our radius by our height, and we got kilometers times kilometers, which is squared. Now we can calculate our volume. Remember, volume is the area of the base times the height. So area of the base is pi times r squared. Then multiply that by the height. So if we plug in the right pieces, we get volume equals pi, which we're going to use 3.14, times the radius, which our radius is 9, and we're going to square that, times our height, which is also 9. So the pieces that we needed to identify are still the same. We're just plugging them into a different formula. Now again, we can use our calculator here to help us out. So type in 3.14 times 9 squared times 9. And when we press enter, that'll give us our volume, which is 2,289.06. And that's going to be kilometers cubed, because remember, volume is the amount of three-dimensional space that something takes up. So three-dimensional is to the third power, so kilometers cubed. All right, just a second example just to make sure we have all the pieces. Now if you look, this cylinder is tilted onto its side, so it just does make things a little different, but not much. Radius is the point from the center to the side of the circle, which we have labeled nicely 5 centimeters. The height, now remember, the height is the distance between the two circles. So here's the two circles. The distance between them is 11 centimeters. So even though it's on the bottom now, it's just because the cylinder has been tilted to its side. So that is the height, 11 centimeters, so make sure you don't mislabel that. And now we just have to plug them into our formulas. So we have surface area, and you can see the formula right here. And we're just going to plug in the pieces. 2 pi is 3.14 times radius. Well, radius is 5 squared, plus 2 times pi times the radius, 5, times the height, 11. So now this time I'm using the multiplication symbol instead of the parentheses, and I'm just using that to show you that it works both ways. That parentheses are just grouping the numbers for multiplication, so whichever way you prefer is fine. But then we can bring back up our calculator and type this in. So we have 2 times 3.14 times 5, and then to square or press this x squared button, plus 2 times 3.14 times 5 times 11. So this should look exactly like how we wrote it out. If we double check, it does. So then we can press enter. And apologies, my calculator's in a weird mode, giving us some fractions. So let's get that to our decimal. Try that again. And we get 502.4. So that's going to be our surface area. 502.4, and it's centimeters squared because area is the amount of two-dimensional space that we would need to cover the cylinder. Now we can solve for our volume. Volume is the area of the base times the height, which is pi r squared times the height. So volume equals pi 3.14 times the radius squared. So we're going to take our radius, 5 squared, and then multiply that by the height of 11. Pull back up our calculator here, and we'll type in our volume. So we have 3.14 times 5 squared times 11. And again, you don't have to use the parentheses as long as you split everything up with the multiplication symbol. Press enter. And again, we'll get back to a decimal answer where we get 863.5. 863.5, and remember, volume is units cubed, so centimeters cubed. That's all the notes I have for you today. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel.